Florida Man Gravity Slingshot, written by Laughing Target. Galactic Council Patent Office, Report 17C884569B121. Topic: Patent Application for Gravitational Slingshot. Inspector Guflick McKeely. I must ask forgiveness for deviating from the normal protocols when writing these reports. What I have just witnessed on what I expect to be a routine patent inspection left me so flabbergasted that I can't, in good conscience, report on this application in the normal Dell bureaucratic format. In regards to the topic application, I need to discuss some additional context. I have a feeling this report is going to become notorious once the documentation is uploaded to the public depository for general record. The Galactic Council Patent Office, the GCPO, is, by law, required to personally review and inspect all applications. With the population and variety of the member species in our galaxy, it is not unusual that an individual or a species believes it's discovered a revolutionary new development for them to recreate a proverbial wheel. We endeavor for 100% in-person review to avoid errant insult of less developed species. This, unfortunately, has a side effect of wasting an unsubstantial amount of resources reviewing pseudo-scientific claims. One notorious bit of fakery that every species has members prone to presenting is perpetual motion. We barely go to a galactic stand a week without someone claiming to have finally discovered it, only to have the carefully hidden battery revealed in the inspection. But space travel, another common application, is for gravitational maneuvers. There is always some garage tinker or back of the appendage bubbling home mathematician that believes he's discovered a secret new approach pattern or condition to use gravitational bodies to improve travel or fuel efficiency. Of course, this is also not species-specific, since we all have members of our species that, even at the age of intersystem travel, still claim their retrospective home planets are also flat. So when this particular application came through, we did like we always did to determine who got the unpleasant privilege of wasting their time with the personal inspection process. Asked the random number generator. I had the honor of being selected for this assignment. The tone of how I approached honor changed substantially from before inspecting this development to after it. Now, before I go any further, no, this particular development is not all groundbreaking, nor does it have any meaningful application to improve fuel efficiency. It was a method of what I saw that left me with a memory that'll pass to countless future generations. The particular species that sent this application were the humans. They required little explanation. Their introduction to the galaxy upended everything we know about life. Up until their discovery, we had assumed that Category 2 Deathworlders were the most civilization could develop on. To this day, intelligent life has never developed on a Category 3 through 9. Humans defying the odds, some are developed on a Category 10. Short on barren rocks and pressure cooker toxic planets, a Category 10 should have been so hostile that it wouldn't support anything else beyond simple single-cell organisms. Yet this one world is the most extreme edges are hostile to life. Some are developed complete organisms, a civilization-grade species, and multiple other species with lesser intelligence that, in time, could also evolve civilization-grade intelligence. Most Deathworld species, as is the nature of their home world, have developed a subculture group that is renowned among their kind as particularly insane. Earth has a unique pleasure of housing multiple such subcultures. I won't name them all, but you've probably been aware of such groups like the Finns, Russians, Ukrainians, Alaskans, and the Australians. Through nuances of geography and politics, these groups have developed behaviors that border on outlandish, even relative to humans as a whole. For example, some subsets casually live with highly venomous creatures, while others routinely walk in territories and land predators that outweigh humans nearly tenfold, only armed with cans of aerosolized chemical irritants. This particular patent was applied by a group that of the region called Florida. Even among the unusual subcultures on Earth, this variety has developed an outsized reputation. They live in a warm, human, and, even for many humans, nearly inhospitable region of the world. As is the case with the Florida Man, they thought this a prime location to build a resort complex catering to their young. One rather incredible story I ran across when researching this report, among many, was that there were cases of local Florida residents carrying around large reptilian animals dating to their ancient prehistoric era in the back of their personal ground conveyances. They do this should they find themselves in dispute with an employee of convenience food establishments, where they will then take this animal and hurl it at the employee when offended. I'm not sure if this is a particularly unusual example, if it's the norm for the culture. Their online communities are difficult to decipher between what is a troll and or truth. I shall exercise caution and never go to find out. This particular group of Florida men had set up a station in one of the numerous dead systems in the galaxy. Arriving, I found a typical low-temperature silica planet with 2 natural satellites orbiting a same plane. Nothing out of the ordinary. The coordinates indicated a landing position on the inner of the 2 natural satellites. Landing, I encountered a substantial industrial facility at the end of a large trench carved into the moon's surface that stretched a quarter of the way around the sphere. As is with most of our species, these Florida men were friendly and cordial. As per protocol, I requested a demonstration of their new gravitational sling mechanism for review. The group led me to a transparent observation dome situated with a clear view of the long rectangular trench. They were kind enough to have asked my home species information and set an interior to my liking. So far, nothing about the reputation of these individuals led me to believe any of the stories. They seemed like normal scientists and engineers who were dressed in typical human garb for these professions. The lead human and I discussed their history, where he informed me that the region called Florida was one of the major epicenters of human space travel development. This made sense to me, as it takes a particular level of crazy to volunteer for these endeavors early in the species' history. He also informed me of a different group that I hadn't previously mentioned amongst the insane, the Ohioans, who have an outsized presence in their fledgling space program and hold many firsts in their species' history. The lead human then indicated that it was time for the demonstration. He pointed out as we neared passage between the main planet and the outer moon. From the planet I could see a series of blue lights from the fusion rockets. Behind the swarm, a thick line was being towed. I was intrigued by what was going on. The lights impacted the outer orbit moon, leaving the long material strung between the 2 celestial bodies. I was astounded by whatever material these humans had developed to survive the forces from being held between an orbiting moon and the host planet without snapping. Creating a natural space elevator was hard enough, and these engineers had managed to tether 2 orbiting masses together. Then we waited. As the inner moon's shorter orbital path began to move between their other 2, the long string vanished between the horizon. Then the ground started to shake in a low rumble. I was unnerved. My human host showed no concern for this. Their behavior didn't calm me, since I knew that humans were, as a species, conditioned to things considered lethal to my species. Then, from over the horizon, I saw the string approaching. It was attached to the sphere with a large hook at the end. As time passed, I realized the rumbling was a tall metal boom that followed along the trench that held the material. The lead human engineer explained that they had to develop this trench system to keep the elasticine strip from catching on the moon. The boom caught it on the orbital plane and then rotated it until it reached a point where the boom was perpendicular to the moon's orbital plane. Then the moon started to move away from the central point between the outer moon and this planet. As it did, the material began to stretch. Then they kept on stretching more and more. The material was incredible. It had to have been anchored deep into the central cores of the celestial bodies to keep from getting ripped out. Time passed as I watched for this wonder material continue to get stretched longer and longer. Then the humans walked me over to a large red button I hadn't noticed before. He indicated to it and asked me to do the honors. He indicated I should watch the sphere at the top of the metal boom as I pressed the button, since, in his words, you don't want to miss this. Looking up, I pressed the button and the sphere disconnected from the boom. Then the material retracted and the sphere vanished from sight. The humans began cheering. Pulling up a screen, the lead human showed the detailed map of the local system and a location beacon. On it, a pulse showed the location of the sphere as it sped away from the planet at impressive sublight speeds. I was beyond shock. When I heard that these Florida men had developed a new gravitational slingshot, I was expecting it to be some strange spinning maneuver that I knew wouldn't work. I then realized the application never used the words maneuver anywhere in it. These insane humans built a literal slingshot and used the gravity of a moon to store the energy. They made a primitive weapon out of 3 celestial bodies. It took a while to get over my stunned state as I stared blankly at the sky. As I watched the line release from the moon and get reeled back to the planet below, I could only mutter that this was something indeed, and, in my state of shock, could only mention that the speeds weren't all that impressive for practical use. The lead human laughed and said it wasn't about being practical. They had only done it because of one of their number got inebriated and bet another member that they couldn't make a giant slingshot. Apparently, any number of key human developments came from just this method of drunken challenging. I then asked if they had painted the material used to build the long string. Now that it was the human's turn to look shocked. Apparently, they were so caught up in developing a massive slingshot in space that they didn't realize they developed a material capable of stretching between two giant masses without breaking. We can expect the patent application for the celestial elasticine compound in the coming days. I, under my authority as an inspector of the GCPO, pre-approve this application. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.